What if the steak on your plate isn't meat at all, but a chemical illusion dressed up as dinner? Across America, millions of pounds of fresh beef are being flushed with gas, repackaged from foreign carcasses, and sold as U.S. approved. In some states, up to 60% of what's labeled as ground beef can legally contain reprocessed fluids, blood dredge, tissue runoff, and industrial water. It looks red, smells fine, and passes inspection until it lands in your frying pan. Have you ever wondered why your burger leaks pink water instead of fat? Or why grass-fed meat from Utah tastes like it was born in a lab? Behind every shiny label lies a scandal. The USDA doesn't want you to see a quiet deception turning your dinner into a science project. The ranchers who still raise real cattle say this truth is bigger than any recall. Americans are being fed an illusion, one shrink-wrapped lie at a time. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And tonight, we expose what every shopper must know: how to spot fake meat in seconds before it ends up on your plate. The red lie. Walk through the meat aisle and you'll see it, those glistening crimson cuts that look straight out of a cowboy's dream. But here's the gut punch. Much of that fresh beef is wearing makeup. The color isn't from the ranch, it's from a gas tank. Retailers call it modified atmosphere packaging, a phrase so polished it sounds like something from NASA. But in reality, it's a cheap magician's trick. After sucking the oxygen out, they pump in carbon monoxide to keep the meat looking young and pink like Botox for beef. The meat could be days or even weeks old, but under fluorescent lights, it smiles at you like it just came off the pasture. The label says US inspected, but that's about as truthful as a politician before Election Day. Imported beef from Mexico, Argentina, or even Canada can legally be repackaged here and sold as product of the United States. No one tells you it may have traveled thousands of miles in unrefrigerated containers before being slapped with that patriotic sticker. Imagine that, meat older than your last tax refund, yet glowing red like a prom corsage, and all perfectly legal. Loopholes as wide as the Grand Canyon make it happen, and the government just looks the other way because it keeps grocery prices stable. Translation? It keeps voters quiet. This deception has become the quiet pandemic of America's dinner tables. People on fixed incomes, retirees, single parents, veterans are buying what they think is local beef, but it's factory flesh with a makeover. And it's not just appearance. When meat is deprived of oxygen and flushed with gases, bacteria like Clostridium perfringens can thrive unnoticed. Ranchers are sounding alarms, but they're drowned out by corporate jingles about farm fresh quality. It's like being serenaded while the ship sinks. Whole Foods, once Thyowite, holy temple of health, isn't innocent either. Even their aisles are lined with gas-treated cuts. The irony would be funny if it weren't so poisonous. The store that sells kale smoothies for $12 uses the same trick as bargain bin supermarkets. They call it harmless, but so did tobacco ads in the 1950s. Trust us, they said, and Americans did until the coughing started. The saddest part? The real ranchers, the people who raise cattle on American soil, are the ones being crushed. Their grass-fed, hand-cut beef can't compete with artificially perfect meat that never browns, never ages, never looks real. It's like trying to sell honesty in a marketplace addicted to filters. When you buy US package, you're not supporting your neighbor's ranch. You're funding multinational meat laundering, and every dollar you spend tells them to keep lying. So how do you spot the fakes? Look closer. Real meat isn't glossy red. It's a bit brown, uneven, alive in color like good leather. If it looks too perfect, too neon, it's as fake as a politician's handshake. Ask where it was butchered, not where it was packaged. Because in this new food economy, packaging is propaganda. And every plastic-wrapped illusion you toss into your cart is one more nail in the coffin of American ranching. The gas may be invisible, but the betrayal isn't. Bloody business. If you thought the gas-flushed meat was bad, brace yourself, because what's lurking in your ground beef might just turn your stomach inside out. In the fluorescent maze of commercial meat packing plants, animals are harvested by the hundreds every hour. Their remains travel down metal conveyors slick with fluids that used to pump through living veins. Beneath those belts collects something industry workers whisper about dredge water. It sounds harmless, like something you'd rinse off your boots after a rainstorm, but it's far from that. It's the blood, myoglobin, and liquefied tissue that settle at the bottom of massive vats after the meat is ground. Instead of disposing of this biological sludge, big processors mix it right back into the meat. Think of it as a meat smoothie, 800 animals blended into one patty, sold with a US-inspected sticker for good measure. That watery red stuff sizzling out of your pan, that's not juiciness, it's dredge water. Up to 60% of what you're paying for isn't even solid meat but reabsorbed fluid from other carcasses. You're literally paying for blood runoff. The smell when it hits the skillet isn't nostalgia, it's decomposition. And the worst part? They don't even know whose blood it is. With animals coming from dozens of states and multiple countries, the identity of what's in your burger could read like an international crime scene. Argentina, Mexico, Canada, all chopped and remixed under fluorescent light. This is why mass recalls hit the news with vague, panic-inducing headlines like "Beef linked to multi-state illness." Linked to what? Linked to whom? They don't know. They can't know. When thousands of animals are mixed into a single industrial batch, tracing contamination becomes impossible. One diseased carcass can poison 1,000 packages, and by the time the CDC connects the dots, the damage is already on your dinner table. The irony, this grotesque practice isn't a violation, it's regulation approved. The USDA stamps the label, the corporations cash the checks, and you get a side of bacteria with your burger. Some butchers admit they keep adding dredge water simply to make more money. More liquid means more weight, and more weight means a higher price. You thought you were paying for beef, but you're really paying for tap water with a body count. Ranchers call it theft with a barcode. Imagine ordering steak and getting a swamp instead. You'd laugh if it weren't so grotesquely real. The next time you fry ground beef and see the pan filling with watery red froth, remember this. It's not fat melting. It's liquid muscle residue and microbial soup. No wonder foodborne illnesses have exploded like wildfire over the past decade. Bacteria thrive in moisture, and the industry has practically built them a spa. They call it harvest efficiency. You might call it what it truly is, biohazard economics. Here's the punchline to this grim joke. The big four meat packers who control most of the American beef supply know this perfectly well. They've engineered the system to churn out maximum profit at minimum cost, even if it means feeding you a mystery blend of leftovers. Every recall, every hospitalization, every mother clutching her child after a bad burger, it's all collateral damage to a balance sheet. To them, your health is a rounding error. So the next time you grab that discounted pack of ground beef, take a longer look. If it seems heavy, wet, unnaturally red, ask yourself what you're really holding. Because it's not just meat, it's the ghost of 800 animals, the reflection of an industry that's lost its soul, and the quiet proof that America's dinner table has been hijacked by greed disguised as convenience. The rotten empire. In Utah, inside a glistening $1 million meat facility, the kind of place that looks more like a tech campus than a butcher shop, something smelled wrong, literally. It wasn't the scent of fresh beef or smoked brisket. It was the thick, sour stench of decay dressed up in stainless steel. Ranchers toured every inch of this so-called modern marvel, with its polished floors, spotless walls, and refrigerated glass showrooms. Everything screamed perfection until they brought the meat home. It was rotten. Not old, not a little off, but unmistakably spoiled. The most expensive butcher shop in the state was selling rot wrapped in luxury. Behind the shiny facade, they found stacks of pallets in industrial freezers, marked by hand in sloppy black ink. Old. That's the kind of honesty customers never see. Those glossy ribeyes marked down to $12.99? They weren't deals, they were disguises. The store was thawing and refreezing aged meat like a magician recycling failed tricks. You could practically hear the cash registers laugh. It's the grocery version of a used car lot, polishing rust with wax, then calling it certified pre-owned. The ugly truth is that there's no law stopping them. Once meat passes a USDA inspection, retailers can sell whatever they please under their brand name. Nobody's checking what sits behind the freezer door. No official cracking opened those pristine vacuum-sealed packs. Regulations care about the cow when it's alive, not what happens after it's carved up. That's how this million-dollar empire keeps its halo clean on paper, filthy in practice. People assume expensive means safe, but in today's meat market, cost only guarantees one thing: a better illusion. These facilities don't invest in freshness, they invest in image. They pour millions into branding, spotless showrooms, and digital thermometers that beep reassuringly while the actual beef beneath those blinking lights is decomposing. It's the same performance every time. Premium signs, patriotic labels, and family tradition slogans slapped on boxes of freezer-burned regret. And because the system says inspection complete, it's all perfectly legal. Ranchers who raise real cattle, who track each animal from pasture to slaughter, know exactly what they're selling. They can identify their carcasses in cold storage, the marbling, the tag, the timestamp. They can tell which is theirs and which isn't. But once the product enters the industrial chain, it's like a witness disappearing into a crowd. What started as a proud animal becomes a faceless SKU. Somewhere between the farm and the freezer, truth dies of suffocation. Customers don't stand a chance. They walk in, dazzled by lighting that makes every steak gleam like a jewelry display, convinced they're buying quality. They take it home, cook it, and wonder why it smells metallic, tastes sour, or leaks gray juice instead of fat. They toss it out, curse their luck, and maybe even go back because the lie looks so convincing. It's the oldest scam in capitalism. Sell the illusion long enough and people forget what real ever tasted like. And yet, this is where the meat industry hides in plain sight inside shiny facilities that are less about feeding people and more about feeding profits. It's theater, not agriculture. The actors wear aprons instead of suits. But the play is the same. Make it look American, make it look clean, make it look worth $12.99 a pound, and don't you dare ask what's behind the curtain. The great grocery illusion. People think they're buying dinner. What they're really buying is a promise, and that promise is rotten to the bone. Every week, working families hand over their hard-earned dollars, believing they're feeding their children clean, honest food. But whether it's Whole Foods with its premium glow, or Costco with its exclusive membership, the truth is chillingly the same. You're paying extra for the exact same factory meat churned out by the same four megapackers: Tyson, Smithfield, JBS, and Cargill. It's the great American illusion, shrink-wrapped in plastic and sold with a smile. The label changes, the lie doesn't. Even your neighborhood butcher isn't innocent. The corner shop with the rustic logo and Bill's Meats printed proudly on the window. Bill didn't raise those cows. He bought them from the same industrial suppliers, slapped on his own label, and doubled the price. It's the same con you see at a gas station where local honey comes from overseas. Except here, the deceit lands right on your dinner plate. It's capitalism's most polished trick to convince you that local means moral and expensive means pure. Meanwhile, it's all the same blood-soaked assembly line feeding you illusions of choice. And the deeper you look, the more grotesque it gets. Some slaughterhouses don't even stand on American soil. They float on ships offshore where oversight doesn't reach. Carcasses are processed as they cross into U.S. waters, stamped, packaged in the United States, and unloaded like cargo that never had a pulse. These companies call it efficiency. It's really necromancy with paperwork. They're not shipping food, they're importing corpses with a brand strategy. The meat may have traveled thousands of miles, decomposing quietly in transit. Yet the moment it hits the dock, it's reborn as American beef. The whole process is like laundering money, except this time, they're laundering death. And who pays for it? The same people who always do retirees on fixed incomes. Factory workers pulling double shifts. Parents trying to stretch their paychecks just one more week. They think they're buying better for their families. But the better is an illusion designed to keep the system humming. The shelves are polished, the packaging is patriotic, and the illusion is profitable. Every dollar spent reinforces the lie. If you want to protect your table, the only real solution is to go local, truly local. Not Bill's Meats local, but from the ranch. Know the farmer local. Once you taste the difference, you'll never go back. Because the truth is simple, even if it's ugly. In modern America, grocery shopping isn't just a transaction, it's a gamble. And right now, the house always wins. The meat mirage. The ugly secret is simple. You can't buy real meat in a grocery store. Not at Walmart, not at Harmon's, not even at the places boasting farm fresh banners and Instagrammable butcher counters. The aisles are filled with illusions, meat-shaped lies wrapped in cellophane. The only way to know what you're truly eating is to know where it came from. If the ranch printed on the label doesn't exist on Google Maps, it's not a ranch, it's a marketing department with a Western-sounding name. Brother Bill's Ranch might sound cozy, but ask yourself, is Brother Bill even real or just another corporate ghost haunting the shelves? Americans have forgotten how to ask the right questions. We trust stickers more than people, labels more than logic. The first step toward reclaiming your dinner plate is interrogation. Call your butcher. Ask them where that ribeye came from, how long it's been dead, whether it's ever been frozen. Watch how they answer. If they dodge, mumble, or don't know, that's your answer. A real rancher will tell you every detail with pride because they've seen the animal alive, not just on an invoice. The fakes hide behind buzzwords like premium, natural, and local, but these words are as empty as the promises printed on cereal boxes. And here's the kicker, even that local grocer down the street, the one with the chalkboard sign and the nostalgic music, is probably not your friend. They don't raise cattle. They buy from the same industrial packers as everyone else, slap on a friendly neighborhood logo, and hope you won't ask. Cattle are everywhere across the American West, yet somehow the supermarkets are full of foreign beef stamped with red, white, and blue. Why? Because it's more profitable for ranchers to sell live cattle overseas than to sell meat at home. Other countries buy our best livestock, process it cheaply, and then ship it back rebranded as U.S. product. It's a global con job, and America's working families are the ones footing the bill. The system is designed to confuse you, a bureaucratic labyrinth where exports, tariffs, and corporate manipulation make sure the truth never reaches your plate. And while you're told to support local, the very ranchers who raise America's healthiest cattle are pushed out of the market entirely. The grocery chains don't want you to meet your rancher. They want you loyal to the barcode. But the fix is simpler than it seems. Seek out real ranchers, ask the uncomfortable questions, and refuse to settle for the pretty lie. If your meat costs less than $10 a pack, chances are 60% of it isn't meat at all. It's water, myoglobin, and marketing. You deserve better than that. The American dinner table shouldn't be built on mystery meat and misplaced trust. It's time to stop buying stories and start buying truth before local becomes just another four-letter lie. The grass-fed scam. The phrase grass-fed has become the new halo in the grocery aisle, glowing with promises of purity, health, and conscience. But here's the dirty truth the industry doesn't want you to hear. It's mostly a lie. There is no federal agency that checks whether your beef actually spent its life grazing in open fields. A cow can eat grass for a few months, be stuffed with grain for the rest of its life, and still end up wearing that virtuous grass-fed label. It's the same old meat in greener packaging, guilt-free branding for the modern consumer. What you're really paying for isn't nutrition, it's narrative. The illusion works because people want to believe in it. The label whispers of rolling meadows, blue skies, and cattle chewing leisurely under the sun. But step behind the curtain and you'll see the truth. Much of this so-called grass-fed beef comes from worn-out cows animals that have birthed 10 calves, aged past their prime, and can no longer be bred profitably. Instead of being retired, they're ground up, packaged, and sold to you as lean 80-20 grass-fed beef. The marketing copy reads like poetry. The reality smells like irony. Even worse, geography makes the lie easier to sell. In places like southern Utah or Nevada, the natural grasslands can't even sustain fattened cattle. The soil's too poor, the forage too thin. There simply isn't enough nutrition in that land to raise robust, marbled beef. So what do producers do? They slap the label on anyway and count on you not knowing the difference. After all, the government doesn't check. Nobody does. The grass-fed badge has become the beef industry's participation trophy. Everyone gets one, no matter how they played the game. And that's where the biggest irony hits. Nutritionally, studies show almost no consistent difference between grain-finished and grass-finished beef. It depends entirely on the study, and more often than not, on who paid for it. One research paper says grass-fed is richer in omega-3s. Another says the gap is negligible. The truth? The data shifts as easily as the marketing budget. It's less about nutrition and more about fat content, marbling, and price tag. The more natural the name, the fatter the profit margin. So is it worth paying more? Only if you like spending your paycheck on fantasy. The ranchers tell it straight. Good meat doesn't come from a label. It comes from a source you can verify. If you can't trace where your beef lived, what it ate, or who raised it, then you're not eating grass-fed, you're eating hope with seasoning. The next time you pick up that neatly wrapped, pasture-raised steak, remember, even lies can be grass-fed if you water them long enough. The cow conspiracy. Most people think beef is beef, but the dirty little secret of the meat aisle is that you could be paying for the flesh of a sick, dried-up old cow, the kind that spent her life breeding, milking, and finally collapsing under exhaustion and never know it. Those cheap packs of ground beef, they might not come from young, healthy steers at all. They could be from worn-out dairy cows past their prime, the bovine equivalent of factory equipment being melted down for scrap. The label doesn't tell you that. It doesn't have to. Here's what they don't teach you in the grocery store. Not all beef is created equal. A steer is a castrated male, raised specifically for meat. A bull is an intact male, too tough and muscular for good eating. A cow is a female that's already given birth, often multiple times, her body depleted of nutrients, her muscle fibers stringy and dry. In plain English, steers are raised for steak, cows are recycled for burger filler. But the system doesn't distinguish. It just grinds everything together: youth, age, sickness, exhaustion, and calls it ground beef. Imagine blending a marathon runner with a couch potato and calling it the same meal. That's the deception Americans are eating 3 times a day. Real ranchers know the difference because they see it with their own eyes. Steers, especially those harvested at their prime, around 2.5 years old, develop fat that's clean, rich, and evenly marbled. Their meat is redder, juicier, and full of that unmistakable flavor people associate with real beef. Cows, on the other hand, produce meat that's grayish, lean, and lifeless. It's the culinary equivalent of reusing burnt coffee grounds, bitter, empty, and utterly stripped of substance. Yet in the industrial chain, they're all thrown together, vacuum sealed and priced by the pound. The reason is money, as always. It's cheaper to grind up old cows than to raise steers properly. True, a well-raised steer takes more than 2 years to reach its full weight, but that time costs labor, land, and care. Why bother when an overworked dairy cow can be repurposed for pennies? The corporations have found their shortcut: disguise decay as thrift, and no one asks questions. The USDA stamp doesn't mean healthy, it means approved for sale. So when you bite into that discount burger, remember, it may not come from the hearty steer you imagine grazing under the sun, but from a worn-out cow whose milk fed the system until she had nothing left to give. The difference between a steer and a cow isn't just terminology, it's honesty versus illusion, vitality versus exhaustion. And in America's meat industry, the latter is what's ending up on your plate, sold as premium. The final warning: by now, the mask has fallen. What began as a friendly stroll through America's grocery aisles has turned into a revelation of rot, a mirror held up to the USDA's most tightly guarded secrets. The farmers who risked their livelihoods to speak out have shown us what the labels won't, that the meat on our tables isn't always the meat we think we're eating. Their stories slice through the illusion like a butcher's blade, exposing a system where corruption is vacuum sealed and sold by the pound. This isn't paranoia, it's patriotism demanding proof. Because when the government's inspection stamp becomes a shield for deceit, it's no longer food regulation, it's theater. Every steak, every burger, every shrink-wrapped promise carries a hidden question now. Where did this really come from? And behind that question lies something deeper, a choice between ignorance and accountability. The ranchers have spoken, the evidence is plain, and the conclusion is terrifyingly simple. The USDA's oversight has turned into overreach, and the American dinner table has become collateral damage. The meat industry isn't just feeding people anymore. It's feeding profits, politics, and complacency. It's a factory of silence, running on our trust and our hunger. But amid the deceit, there's still a spark of something worth saving: the local farmers. The ones whose hands still touch the soil, whose cattle still graze on real grass, and whose names can actually be found on a map. They're not faceless corporations or offshore packers. They're neighbors fighting to keep truth alive in a marketplace that punishes honesty. Supporting them isn't charity, it's self-defense. It's how Americans take back control from a food system that has long since sold its soul for subsidies and slogans. And perhaps that's why gatherings like the upcoming July 4th meetup in Bozeman, Montana, matter so much more than they appear. On the surface, it's just an event, but underneath, it's an act of rebellion. Farmers, ranchers, and truth seekers standing shoulder to shoulder, celebrating independence not just from a foreign power, but from the industrial deception that now governs our plates. There will be laughter, stories, and yes, real meat from real ranches. But more than that, there will be a reminder that the fight for food, transparency, is a fight for freedom itself. So the next time you look at your grocery cart, remember this investigation. Remember the hidden labels, the gas-flushed deception, the offshore slaughter, and the rebranded corpses that the USDA allows to masquerade as American beef. Because awareness isn't enough, action is. Support your local rancher. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Refuse the illusion. The truth may be bitter, but it's the only thing left that's still organic.
Thanks so much for sticking with us to the very end. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our daily updates. And now feel free to check out some of our latest and most popular videos showing up on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.